Hi folks, it's Pete. As I said in my last video, which was devoted to mainly to what I bought at the Kendal Record Fair, there was so much that I couldn't get it all in one video, so this is part 2. There's 14 albums here to go through, so I haven't had a chance to listen to them yet. So we'll try and move through these fairly quickly. First up, from the £2 bin, was my very first Ravi Shankar album on vinyl. This is Improvisations. This was, I think, recorded in 1961 in America, but this is a 68 issue on the Liberty label. Now the first side of this is an improvisation on a theme from a film called Patha Panchali, which is an experiment, as it says here. Bear with me, what does it say? An experiment in combining the Indian idiom with jazz, an improvisation on a raga from the South Indian system, and a long development of one raga in the serene mood. So on the first side you have, as well as Ravi, you have Bud Shank, who's a jazz saxophonist, flautist, Dennis Budimir on guitar, Gary Peacock on bass, and Louis Hayes on drums. That sounds like it could be really good. Next up is an album I used to see an awful lot around, but I've never heard it. And again, it was from I think the £2 bin, and that's David Fanshaw's Africa Sanctus. This is as it says here, this is a version of the sort of Catholic Mass for African tapes, choir, operatic soprano, light soprano, shouter, African drummer, rock drummers, 2 percussion, electric guitar, bass guitar, piano, and Hammond organ. This could be either very cheesy or really good. I'm hoping the latter. The next one, again, this was only again £2, but I must admit this was bought in error, in that I thought that this was a Keith Jarrett album, and it isn't. It's by Dennis Russell Davies, and it's a solo piano album, though the track Ritual, which occupies both sides 1 and 2, is written by Keith Jarrett. This is on the ECM label. ECM, from 1982. So I would imagine that this is going to be pretty much in the vein of a Keith Jarrett solo piano album. Interested hear it. It didn't cost anything. Now the next one I'm really excited about hearing, because I've heard great things about this. This is the Suntreader album. Now Suntreader were a trio, jazz rock trio, two of its members went on to play with Brand X, and that's Maurice Pert, the great drummer, sadly no longer with us, and Peter Robinson on electric piano, and the third member is Alan Ross on bass guitar. This is from 1973. I think it's on the Islands label, Help, which is their sort of cheap label. On the album, I think it actually goes under the title Zin Zin, which is one of the tracks, but I've heard such good things about this that I was really pleased to find it. Next up, filling a hole in my Stormy Yamashita collection, is the album Go To. Now, Go was a project he did with a lot of famous musicians, including Steve Winwood, who's done this. They did I think a double studio album, then a live album, and then this. This isn't meant to be as good as what preceded it, but I'll be intrigued to hear it. And it includes Aldi Meola, Donny Harvey, Paul Jackson, Brother James, Linda Lewis, Peter Robinson, who we just seen, and Sun Treader, Jess Roden, the great Klaus Schulze, and Michael Shreve. And this one is on Arista. Like I said, not meant to be anywhere as good as what came prior, but hopefully it'll still be of interest. Another one that's filling up a collection is David Bedford. I really like his works. I'm trying to get them all. This is his retelling of the Odyssey, and it's basically just him on a massive keyboard along with the Queen's College Choir. Though on 3 tracks you do get guitars by Mike Oldfield and Andy Summers of Police fame. And this is, what year was this? 1976 on Virgin. Like I say, I'm a big fan of his work. I'm slowly trying to collect them all. Again, I think this was £1.50, so really pleased. Next is another cheapie. This is Oneness by David Carlos Santana. Silver Dreams, Golden Reality. I think this was Santana's first solo album, though to be fair, I don't think there's much difference between one of his solo albums at this point and a Santana band album. It includes a lot of the Santana members on backing him on here as per normal, and is meant to be mainly instrumental, which is a big plus in my mind. Quite like that label. It's on CBS, and this one was 1979. Never heard this one before, but at that price you've got to give it a go. Next up, I think this might be my first Stackridge. No, it's my second Stackridge album. The quirky prog pop band of the 70s. Love that cover. Now, at this point, which was 1974, there were only 2 of I think the original members left in the band. That was Mutter Slater on vocals and flute and Andy Davis on vocals, guitar and mellotron. The rest of the band were new, but they included Keith Gemmell on saxophone, clarinet and flute, who was obviously better known from Audience, a great band. One of the other new members is Rod Bowkett on keyboards, and he seems to write most of the material. The first side is their sort of quirky, humorous, Beatlesque sort of songs. The second side is, I think, 3 of the 4 tracks are instrumental and meant to be in the sort of Zapperish vein. The fourth track is a cover of a Gordon Haskell song, No One's More Important Than the Earthworm. They're a really good band. Next, Eric Burdon Declares War. This is the first album he did with the funk rock band War. I really like what I've heard in the past. This is on Polydor. I think the only War album I've got is a double live, which is excellent. This one doesn't get as good a review as some of the later stuff, but I think this will be really good. The 4 to go, moving along quite well. Next, one I was really pleased to find, that's Michael Mantler's live album, with, as you can see there, Jack Bruce, Rick Fenn, Don Preston, John Greaves and Nick Mason. What a lineup. Now the only album I have by Michael Mantler is The Hapless Child, which is I love. It's a great album. And on here they perform, I think, a number of the tracks from there. It's going to be interesting to hear this because the vocals are handled by Jack Bruce. Doesn't play bass on this, but on the original Hapless Child album, the vocals were done by Robert Wyatt. It's going to be interesting to see how Bruce handles the songs, but I'm looking forward to this. Should be really good. Next up is an album by the great Norwegian jazz guitarist Terje Rypdal and his band The Chasers. This is another ECM release from 1987, and the band were obviously Rypdal on electric guitar and keyboards, Bjorn Kjellemyr on electric and acoustic bass, and Odin Kleiver on drums and percussion. Now I've just got to read what it says on AllMusic about these. This is his all too short-lived band, rock band, who played like a jazz trio that has always pushed the barrier to achieve the visceral punch of rock. They could be funky as hell, terrifyingly experimental, cinematically bold, or wonderfully meditative and tender. That they could do all of these things on recording and still seek this sound barrier as a band was an achievement equalled by few. Now if that doesn't make you want to hear it, nothing will. I think this is going to be excellent. Another one to add to my collection of Tangerine Dream albums. This is Thief, the soundtrack from the movie. Now this is from 1981, and this is with obviously Edgar Froese, Chris Franke and Johannes Schmerling. This is after Bauman had left. I think this now means I'm only missing 2 albums, I think, from the start of the band in '69, I think, up to the mid-80s. After that I lost interest, so I think I've just got Sorcerer and Green Desert to try and get. Nice. Last 2 are somewhere in the way of grails. First is Clear Light's album Forever Blowing Bubbles. Now this was their second album. I would really love to get the first Clear Light Symphony. Clear Light were a French prog band in the mould of sort of Gong, because a lot of the Gong players I think played on the first album. The leader was the keyboardist Cyril Verdeur, and this also features David Cross and Gilbert Hartman as guests. Again, not meant to be as good as Symphony, but I think this is still going to be cracking. Looking forward to it. This isn't from 1975. It's on the Virgin label. Which I don't think I've seen that version of the label in that colour. Excellent. I was really pleased to find that. That wasn't from the £2 bins. To pay a bit more for that. And the last one is a real grail, and it's the one that I paid the most for. I couldn't beat the guy down. This is Ian Carr with Nucleus and their album Solar Plexus. I had to pay £30 for this. I know, I know. It's a bit more than I was hoping to pay, but last year or the year before, I saw a copy of this at the Kendal Record Fair. It was up on the back wall, which is always a bad sign. And when I asked the guy how much it was, he was looking for £200 for it. So I obviously left it. But that was obviously I think an original Vertigo Swirl version. This I think is a later pressing. Again, still on Vertigo, but it's that Vertigo Spaceship, is it? That's what they call it. I think Nucleus, especially their early albums, were superb. Great jazz rock fusion. In the band at this point were obviously Ian Carr on trumpets and flugelhorns, along with Kenny Wheeler and Harry Beckett. Brian Smith on tenor and soprano saxes and flute. Tony Roberts on tenor sax, bass clarinet. Carl Jenkins, obviously, who went on to Soft Machine on electric piano, baritone sax and oboe. Chris Spedding on guitar. Jeff Klein on bass guitar and double bass. Ron Mathieson on bass guitar. John Marshall, the great John Marshall, on drums. Again, another one that went to Soft Machine, he's still with them. Chris Karan on percussion and Keith Winter on synthesizer. This was, I think, the first Nucleus album where Ian Carr actually wrote all the material. And this was recorded in December of 1970, so it will have come out in 1971. Might have cost me a bit, but I'm really pleased to have found that and not have to have paid £200. Right, that's it. Still got up to 18 minutes. When I got in today from a trip to town, there was a package waiting for me of another 10 albums from Discogs, so it might not be too long before I'm having to do another video. If I'm doing too many, just tell me down below. Thanks very much. Hope you're all okay. Cheers. Bye.